guy calling the boatman. He lives in the mud hut across the dragon-fighting river. We are on our way to see Grandpa, Grandma, and Auntie too. Finally, the boatman comes out of his hut. Grandpa! Hey! The boatman has the same family name, Juan, as my grandpa. So Mama told me if I call him Grandpa, it will make him happy. So next time, he might not have us wait so long. Bye, Grandpa! On the other side of the dragon-fighting river, I climbed onto the crossbar of Mama's big old black bicycle, and she started pedaling on the bumpy dirt road. The top of my head feels warm when Mama breathes out, and cold when she breathes in. Soon my legs fall asleep, but I'm excited because I'm going to see Auntie too. I used to live at the grandparents. When Mama worked at the brick factory, Auntie too babysat me. I remember I was maybe 4, running around the dining table with my belly bulging like a balloon. Auntie too tried to feed me fat noodles. If you don't eat them, toads will come to eat them. I wouldn't mind toads eating them, but I would be scared to see so many toads jumping around me. I have been Auntie Two's confidant since I was 4, or maybe even before I could remember. Your uncle too pushed me to the corner behind the stove and hit me with the cooking spade. When I turned 6, Mama took me home and sent me to one of the best elementary schools in town. In the same year, Auntie too got married. It's a long bicycle ride. Ah, the little bridge! Grandparents' house is only 5 houses down. On the right side of the dirt road is a massive green ocean of rice fields. On the left are similar brick houses, with the main house in the middle, in the front, and the kitchen in the back. Grandpa, Grandma! They're cooking in the kitchen. I'm going to see Auntie too. I will come back before lunch. I've missed Auntie too. I'm so happy to see her again. Auntie too lives in the mud house on the high ground 2 miles away. It was in the far eastern end of the rice fields. She lives in grandparents' old kitchen. I walk on the narrow footpath between the paddy fields. I can smell the crops and the wet field beds. My body feels so light that I can almost fly. Cuckoo! 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 Auntie too! Auntie too! She's not home. Her home is small. A big lime stove stands on the right side of the door, on the right side. Twigs and straws are stacked in the corner. In front of the stove is a small, tiny dining table and 2 tiny benches, and a clay water tank. On the left is a twin-sized wooden bed. A blackened quilt strap and 2 pillows rest atop. Auntie too! Auntie too walks up the fields with a sickle in her hand. We walk in the house. Auntie too scoops some water from the water tank and drinks. He beats me every day. It hurts here. freezes. I don't know what to say to comfort Auntie too. Then she smiles. Your mama has brought me many nice clothes. When I say goodbye to Auntie too, she walks me out of the house and stands in front of her home, watching me, walking back to grandparents. After I have been walking for a while, I wonder if Auntie too is still there watching me. So I turn. There she is, still standing there looking my way. I walk again and turn again. She is still there, but looks smaller. So I keep walking and turning until she looks so tiny. Then I stop. Auntie two and I are standing there, tiny face to tiny face, as if we were the only two living persons on the whole planet, bathed in the soft spring breeze and the warm sunlight. When I grow up, I will be Auntie two's protector. I will invite Auntie two home and give her a nice bath, change her into nice clothes, and make her delicious fried rice. Cuckoo! Cuckoo! My grandparents are first cousins. So my Auntie too was the second child, and also the second daughter after my mother. Auntie too wasn't born normal. She wasn't able to walk until she was 12. So marrying off Auntie two had always been the knot in my grandfather's heart. So when a scavenger in the distant village was introduced by the matchmaker, my grandfather arranged their marriage in no time. And he gave the married couple their old kitchen. It was the last day in my high school, the best boarding high school in my hometown, Dafeng, in eastern China. My parents came to pick me up. I had just taken the 3-day Gaokao, the National College Entrance Exam. For 3 years, I had been studying day and night to prepare for Gaokao. As a peasant's daughter, going to college was my only way to change my destiny. At home, Mother said, "There was something I didn't tell you before your Gaokao. Your Auntie too died a week ago. She made soup with some wild mushrooms. She didn't know they were poisonous. She died 3 days later." I hadn't seen Auntie two for almost 3 years. I couldn't stop crying during dinner. My father said, "Cry for what? Retarded boy, we died. What's the big deal?" Boyu is Auntie two's name. I went to Auntie two's house after Mother delivered the news. I remember, let's go back. I remember the last time I saw Auntie two was when I had just started high school. Her home had just moved near other villages in front of the river. They built their own kitchen. Her son was 10 years old, playing at the neighbors. Her husband was home. He was in his mid-50s with a hunchback. He looked a beat after days collecting and selling recycled paper and wires. Mother had told me, the neighbors often heard Auntie Tu's near-death screaming in the house, "Zhuming ah, save my life!" But nobody came to help. When the first time he beat Auntie Tu dragged him to see grandfather. Grandfather said, "So what?" Auntie Tu cried, "Do I have a baba?" Every time when mother saw her husband, she always scolded him. He would behave better for a couple of days, but then he started beating Auntie Tu again. Her son came back from the neighbors to say something to him. But he yelled, "No!" and punched her belly as hard as he could with his small fist. My heart ached. On the dining table, there were 2 pickled duck eggs in the bowl on the table. That was the only dish besides the watery rice. Auntie Tu insisted I eat one of the duck eggs. I hadn't eaten anything Auntie Tu prepared since she got married. I didn't want to eat anything that I didn't think was clean enough. I sat down. I cracked open the duck egg and I had one tiny bite and put it back in the bowl. After that visit, Gaokao preparation had taken over my whole life. The next day after mother delivered the news, I went to Auntie Tu's house. They had built their main house like other villagers. The living room in the middle, 2 bedrooms on each side. The old bloodstain was still there, on her bed and on the cement floor. Lots of blood. According to her husband, in the last 3 days of Auntie Tu's life, she had complained of pain while she was throwing up blood. There was a blood trail from her room to the living room and to her husband's room. According to her husband, on Auntie Tu's last night, she crawled to his room and cried for help. She dragged her back and she died on her way back. On the 7th days of her death, I attended the ceremony. Both her son and husband wailed by her tomb, a lump of dirt with no name. Countless nights in college, I stayed awake trying to imagine Auntie Tu's pain. Was she scared when she sensed death was coming on her last night? Perhaps she fell onto the floor when she tried to get up. She crawled on the floor. "Zhuming ah!" The distance from her room to the living room and to her husband's room looked dauntingly far. She wasn't sure if she could make it to her husband's room. She crawled and crawled. "Zhuming ah!" She didn't know how long it had taken her to reach the living room. "Zhuming ah!" She felt so weak. She crawled and crawled. She was almost there. Her husband got up, grumpily perhaps. What could he do? He grabbed her arms from the back and dragged her back. Her legs were twisted under, and it got untwisted when passing through the threshold between his room and the living room. Her body hardened. Her last breath exhaled. Her pain diminished. Lying in the bed in my college dorm, I kept my weep silent and breathed through my mouth. I couldn't reconcile myself to what Auntie 2 had lived through her 40 years of life. It's summer this year. 17 years after Auntie 2's death, I'm at my first 10-day silent retreat in Castroville, 2 hours north of San Francisco. I want to think through things in my life. On the 7th day, I see Auntie 2 lying in her bed. Her room is dim. I can barely see her face. I'm sitting on her bed in meditation position, holding her right hand with my left hand. We are connected. From the top of my head to the tip of her toes. From the tip of her toe to the top of my head. Breathe in, breathe out. I want to feel her pain, even if it's only a portion of her pain. Her pain made all my pain in life so much less painful. With me sharing her pain would diminish when time could ever travel back. From the top of my head to the tip of her toes. From the tip of her toes to the top of my head. Breathe in, breathe out.